Welcome back to part two of the Ian Pigott story of our farmer interview series. In part one of the conversation with Ian, we chatted about his background, the family farm, which started over 100 years ago, and some of the regenerative and sustainability practices that their operation employs. Today, we're going to turn the conversation over to Ian to discuss his educational and pop up farm. So as if you aren't busy enough, you've got all that stuff going on with the regenerative space, the sustainability space. I mean, you have a working farm, but you also do an educational space and what you're calling a pop-up farm. Tell us a little bit about that side of the business too.
Okay, so we have an education charity, so we're really keen on trying to reconnect young people with food and farming and also career opportunities in agriculture. And that's a kind of like the career opportunities are that's the sort of hook part of it as far as I'm concerned, because I don't know what it's like in the States, but I know most parts of the world it's getting more and more difficult to get young people enthused about working in agriculture. So we started the farm school in 2014, so it's been going nearly 10 years. And what we do there is we built a farm on one of the farms, and we run we create education programs, and we devise programs, and then we'll roll them out through larger charities. And that's because we have the fortitude of it's our own space. I'm one that I deliver the education program, so I kind of I need to know how the curriculum works, but I also need to know how the farm works. But it's great working with young people because you can also understand what makes them tick. So that's one part of our business, not for profit. And then the pop-up farm was, so in the UK, we've had farming has been supported in one way, shape or form since the Treaty of Rome in 1973 or whenever it was. But since Brexit, we know that the support for British farming is disappearing. The amount of money promised to support British agriculture has only been guaranteed until the end of this Parliament. But we've known that for quite a long time. We've known since the Brexit vote that the chances are that support is going to disappear, and it's quite important to a lot of farms. I think in the UK, there's a statistic that something like 80% of farms would operate below the line without support. So, and that number used to be, before Brexit, was about £220 a hectare, about £100 an acre, or just under. So we needed to find a way of, how are we going to make up that shortfall in income to the business? And it's quite a big number even for a small farm like ours. And so we wanted to sort of combine our awareness of where the knowledge gaps were that we'd learned through our charity to creating like an experiential farming thing. And you've got a lot of it in the States. I mean, we do sunflower events, we do a sweet corn event that sort of merges with the sunflowers, and then we do a large pumpkin and squash event, and then we host some other bits and pieces as well. But we're really lucky. We are, as I said earlier, we're 20 minutes from the centre of London. We've got loads of people on our doorstep. So it's, I kind of think if we can't make a fist of it, we're located where we are, we need our bottom smacked, really.
Yeah, that I'm sure presents a lot of opportunity for those people to come from London. I'm thinking next time I'm in London, I want to come up and see it, because that sounds like a really unique opportunity, kind of an agritourism farm, if you will.
Yeah.
But for those people that young, old, wherever they're at in life, that have been to your farm and are asking you questions about finding a career in agriculture, what's kind of your piece of advice for those people?
That's a really good question. And it's a space that I've spent a lot of time in since I came back to the farm, working with chairing national education charities in this space, and I sit on the board of a large landowning education charity now, where they do some amazing work. I mean, sadly, I'm getting too old to be the sort of person that these young people relate to, but I think the programs that we try and devise now is you'll hear a lot of ag programs talking about farm to fork, and to my mind, that really highlights how agriculture needs to completely redress how they approach young people. Farm to fork is completely wrong. It needs to be fork to farm, because you need to start with the young person and work backwards to the farm. Because if you talk about farming, there's this kind of barrier to entry. Young people assume that unless you own a farm, or you've got an uncle or an aunt with a farm, it's not for you, and that's just not the case anymore. In fact, I think that a lot of first generation farmers are very much the best farmers, because they're not saddled with history and tradition and so forth. But when it comes to careers, I think it's just trying to make those young people recognize that they can work in farming in all across its food supply chain, whether it's going from soil research to going to whatever, being a tasting expert, working for a restaurant chain, but also that there is something to fill everyone's skill set and interest. Still agriculture is saddled with this reputation that it's not a destination for the best and brightest, and we know that that's not true. And we've had some really good media stories in the UK that have made people more aware of the opportunities, but it is getting really, really difficult, I believe, in the UK to attract people into the industry and to hold on to them. And one of the problems that we have, which is I think it is global, is this sort of lack of clear career path. If you want to be an accountant, you can pretty much, from the point that you decide you want to be an accountant, you can pretty much map what your salary will be until the day you retire, and what different sort of responsibility, leadership progression you could take if that was your interest. In the agricultural sector, that's really, really difficult, and we need to show that there are kind of multiple entry points. You don't have to start at the bottom. You could come as a graduate or a postgrad, or come in from another industry. There are loads of opportunities, and I'd have to say, without blowing my own trumpet, I would say, of the several thousand or more children that have been through our education program, I don't think any one of them has ever left thinking that really would be a rubbish career. I think they all kind of go, God, that would be kind of neat. Now how many of them actually follow it up, I don't know, but there is something in it for everybody, and I just love seeing young people that might struggle in the school classroom environment, because we all learn differently, and the education systems are really flawed in that unless you're, academically astute, then you get put down this pigeonhole of not being particularly bright. And we get young people onto farms that they're just wired differently, and they can show their peers that they are uber smart, but it's just they haven't had the opportunity to display those skills yet. So that's something that really lights me up.
Well, I really appreciate starting to hear some of your story today. I feel like we just got a glimpse of who Ian Pigott is. But Ian, thank you so much for your time today. Certainly appreciate it. Before we let you go, if any of our viewers want to follow along with you on social media or follow up with you about the pop-up farm and the education farm, how can they find you?
We are the pop-up farms on Instagram, the _farm, and we're also on Facebook. And then we've got our home farm. All my contact details are on thralesend.co.uk.